Hey there, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back to another great episode of On the Throttle with Jackie Van Ham and my buddy Josh, talking about everything going on out here in motorcycling and power sports. We've got a great show for you today, including beep, 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 the Honda Grom is dead, and the return of a certain type of gas. And I'm not talking about what happens to Josh after he eats a chili dog. What's going on in your neck of the woods, Josh?
So we're going to talk about a couple of things. So for me, first off, there is the ultimate way to be cheap without getting cheap. And the other thing is we're going to talk about battery technology. And, this is the double A. This is the same thing that is used in your remote, in your beard trimmer, everything like that. Are motorcycles going to use something like this? So that's what we're going to talk about on my end.
I don't know, Josh. Everybody stay tuned. We'll have those stories and more after we hear a word from our sponsors.
Gryphon is a family-owned North American motorcycle protective apparel brand with a long history in the motorcycle industry. Gryphon offers CE Level 2 protection in the back, shoulders, and elbows. The armor is pliable to move with you for a comfortable and safe ride. Gryphon offers a wide range of products for men and women: mesh, transition, and four-season jackets in textile and leather. We offer thermal-lined riding pants, rain gear, and gloves. Gryphon is focused on style, function, and protection for our fellow riders. Check us out at www.gryphonmoto.com.
Well, Josh, this week, Honda dropped a real bombshell out here on the internet with a press release talking about the Honda Grom is dead. Long live the Honda Grom.
I'm
Okay, it's not
shaking.
that dramatic, not really. But Honda has gone ahead, dropped a press release stating that they are putting a pin in the Honda Grom and 9 other of their motorcycles. They are taking everything off the shelves. No more new orders coming. They are having some supply chain issues. Let's take a look at this press
I
release
love it.
from the folks over at Honda. Honda suspends orders for 10 bike models, including the Rebel and the Grom. As you can see on your screen right now, the Honda Grom, this is actual size. This is how big these guys are. They fit me and Josh perfectly. This past week, businesses around the world are still suffering due to supply chain issues, shipping backups, lack of containers, massive congestion at ports, etc., 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 and of course, the ongoing semiconductor chip shortage. These issues, combined with the new coronavirus lockdowns overseas, thanks to a new strain, have caused Honda to stop taking orders for 10 of its most popular models. Again, this is a Honda Motor Company press release that just got dropped this past week. In it, they state that due to multiple factors such as lockdowns, due to the new coronavirus infection, congestion in marine transportation in harbors worldwide, and then the supply chain issue, product and parts arrivals have been delayed. Now, here's the curious thing about this, Josh. It is a pretty heavy duty statement for this manufacturer to go ahead and
Yes.
admit that they're just going to stop taking orders for motorcycles for the near future. They're going to complete the orders that they have, but they're not taking any new orders. First of all, wow, that is a really big, bold statement. I don't think we've
Yes.
really heard that from anybody yet. I don't know if
No.
Honda is the canary in the coal mine of what's going to be happening later on down the road. They also were very careful in this press release to not put any sort of dates or locations on this shutdown of supply. So what I'm getting at is they didn't say when this is going to stop, and they didn't say if this is a global situation, like nobody's getting their bikes, or if this is just Asia market only. So we're all going to have to wait and see. As of today, I've not seen any further news, but out there in internet land that as soon as we hear from it, we'll be sharing it with you right here on the program. So make sure to go ahead, hit that notifications on, and give us a subscribe. You're not going to want to miss this interesting story. Again, is this the beginning of a new trend, Josh?
It's crazy because to me, and I mean, this is this whole economic, when you look, I mean, inflation's obviously nuts, and I'm not an economist, but when you look at supply chain issues, governments, I mean, everywhere injected tons of money, and you add that with supply chain issues, suddenly the price of everything goes bananas. When I'm looking online and seeing used Groms for like $4,000, this is gonna stir the pot and do all sorts of. We are in a zany, crazy time, and a statement like this from Honda is only going to make it crazier. To me, it's interesting. I mean, if we said, "Hey, we're not going to do a podcast for the next while," we're not getting paid. So the other thing that I look at is, I know Honda's got deep pockets, but that's hard on the savings account.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a really, really weird situation going forward. Hopefully, this is just a very, very short blip in their production life
Yes.
cycle. Just like Harley Davidson recently had a shut down production going on here as well, due to, I think it ended up being like a brake line issue that was not
Yep.
compliant. But they did get back into production. They're doing their thing and they're cruising on along. It was not that long of a shutdown. But again, the fact that Honda did not put a date on this, or whether this applies to just, Asian market, European market, global market, US market, I mean, nobody knows. It was just terrifically vague. It makes me very curious about what's going on over at Honda. Now, what do you have going on for your first story for today, Josh?
So, I mean, I've been called cheap, but by you even is
Daily,
yeah,
daily, and
yeah,
to your
yeah.
face.
Correct. Yeah, no, and I have no qualms about it. But I don't feel I'm cheap. I feel like I look for good value. And speaking of good values, CFMoto has just said that the 800 Adventura is going to be coming to the US. And that being said, possibly it sounds like Canada also. Now, this, you've heard of CFMoto probably. They are in partnership with KTM. It's kind of that, hey, we'll help you produce stuff if you help us with some design, and vice versa. They work pretty well together. They've had a known partnership for a number of years. That being said, this motorcycle you see here, it's using the LC8C motor that was originally came out in the 790 KTM. So what they've done with this is they're running 95 horsepower. When you look at this up close, you can tell the frame is very much 790 KTM derived. They are having two versions of this. They're having an entry version, and then which is much more road geared. This is the off-road geared, a little bit more adventurous geared bike. So the cool thing that I see in this, and if we look at the next slide, that'll show you the more roadish version of it that's a little bit less money. With these, it's interesting. CFMoto has rapidly gained a reputation coming over here in the US as an inexpensive but not cheap. And that's what I really like about the CFMoto stuff, is they've found a great way to pack a ton of value in a motorcycle without going over the top. Now, when we look at this one here, like I said, you can very much see there's a 790 derived frame in there. What there isn't is 790 suspension, 790 wheels, and other items. This cast wheels, this KYB suspension on it. It doesn't necessarily have all the electronic gizmos. You can also see this is a CF design swing arm. So there are differences here. Everything that I have seen from CFMoto, in fact, I have a friend locally that bought one. I haven't had the chance to swing a leg over it, but he said, fit, finish, everything like that. This is a quality motorcycle. Pretty sure that's going to carry into this 800 Adventura series also. So the interesting thing with this being a partnership with KTM is, as you look here, this isn't going to step on KTM's toes. When you look at something like the 890 that has the 18-inch rear or 21-inch front, even the spoked version, which we've got on the next slide here, which is the more aggressive version, that has a 17-inch rear and a 19-inch front wheel in the spokes. There's the cast wheel version that we just had up also. There's the KYB suspension that is lower travel. So this really isn't going to compete with the 890 or even use 790 KTMs, which I think is so cool, and which to me is what leads to these lasting partnerships between brands that allows them to bring us quality products a little less expensive. The cool thing about this bike is this will do probably 90% of what someone wants to for adventures. Unless you want to do dumb things the way I do, you're probably going to be really well off with this bike. So, like I said, inexpensive, not cheap. I looked up right now, a brand new 890 Adventure, just not the Adventure R, just the Adventure, you're looking at $13,399. For this is the high end version. This is $10,499. The cast wheel version is $9,499. To me, those are great values, and I love seeing this. So, are you a fan of CFMoto stuff, Jacqui?
I really am. I really enjoy some of these brands that have these partnerships, Asia brands, Asian companies
Yeah,
that have partnerships with brands that are a little bit more familiar, that brands that are definitely bigger, and they are playing in the same field, but they're not making dead ringer copies for these
right.
bikes. So I think that, as you said, there's enough differences between them to make them stand on their own. And I am much like you. I am from the Midwest. I'm a bit of a frugal gal myself. I love the fact that you can get into this bike, which I think is super sharp looking for what,
Agreed.
$11,000? I think that is a screaming hot deal, particularly for that customer that just wants to go an adventure every once in a while. I mean, why go spend
Yeah,
$25,000, $30,000 on a bike that you're only going to play on a little bit, every once in a blue moon? To me, this is a great solution for that, for somebody that just wants to add an adventure bike to the stable, but it's not their full-time ride necessarily. I think that that's a really, really neat, cool thing. So I am here for it. The one thing I can tell you that I do wish they had a bigger dealership reach and network in this
agreed.
country, because I would love to see these in person. I love looking at bikes. I am a trade show junkie. I love looking at new stuff. I love touching new stuff. I love climbing on bikes. I am totally that guy. And it is a bummer that they don't have a little bit bigger reach over here. But first, everybody's got to get started. You got to crawl to run, right?
Agreed.
But thank you
Agreed. And
so much. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
see them developing this, and because it's that they've done a good job of overcoming that China bike mentality, and they've started to build a dealer network. There's actually there's two within about an hour and a half of me here, and to me, it's those steps that they need to take to get over that. I mean, let's face it, 10 years ago, some of the China bike invasion left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. And they've done a great job with mouthwash.
Yeah. They are rinsing with some very, very tasty mouthwash right now, because
Yes,
this bike and a handful of these other companies that are coming from overseas are making some really very interesting, neat things. And
yeah,
you're right. I love the price point for these. I think they're just really, really cool. Anywho, so my second story for today, we're going to be talking about a particular type of gas that is making a comeback. And as promised, I'm not just talking about one after Josh eats a chili dog or ice cream. This type of gas that seems to be making a bit of a comeback, and I've been hearing this word thrown around an awful lot in the past handful of weeks. The word is hydrogen. So Josh and I talk all the time on this program about e-bikes. E-bikes are not the future. E-bikes are the now, and they are here to stay. They have had an absolute boom, particularly during COVID time, just selling off of the shelves, clearing out, storefronts. People just can't get enough of these things. Spoiler alert, I do own an e-bike as well. I absolutely love it. It's a hoot. It's a really good time. But I have heard the word hydrogen getting thrown around an awful lot. And this has been in the motorcycle space a little bit more. And then about a month or two ago, there was even a press release from Bosch. Bosch North America is going to be investing 1.3 billion with a B dollars into hydrogen technology and hydrogen research and development. So clearly there is something going on with hydrogen. And before you get all up in arms and want to come at me, talking to me about the Hindenburg, which happened in the 1930s, the times they are changing, and hydrogen as a fuel option is now very, very different. The big player that announced this past week is going to be the Indian company, as in the country India. TVS is who was making a little bit of waves with one of their announcements this week. Hydrogen fuel cells have been around for decades, but they're still seen as a space-age technology, more at home on the International Space Station than at your local filling station, but that won't be the case for long. Again, I think that this is really interesting. This is the bike on your screen that they're talking about. It is a TVS iCube. This is their battery EV bike. So this is a battery tech bike made by them. And it's just kind of like the platform for where they're kind of thinking about going, but making this become a hydrogen bike. Honda, Suzuki, and Yamaha all demonstrated prototype hydrogen fuel cell bikes more than a decade ago, but there appears to have been very little development since then. Now, India's TVS, a manufacturing giant that makes more than 2.5 million bikes per year, they're also the owner of Norton, and they're a partner for BMW in the manufacturing of the G310 bikes, is developing a simple, low-cost fuel cell scooter, which could make its way over to the UK and possibly Europe. So I thought this was very interesting because they've released a patent. So this means they actually are getting a little bit more serious about this fuel. TVS's patent doesn't show detail of the motor itself, but it's likely to be a hub-mounted unit, similar to the 4.4 watt one that you are looking at on your screen right now. While the iCube can do 60 miles before stopping for a 4.5-hour recharge, a fuel cell version could be replenished in seconds in a hydrogen filling station. Like a battery, a fuel cell has two electrodes, a negative anode and a positive cathode, with an electrolyte membrane between them. But instead of storing energy like a battery and hence needing to be recharged, a fuel cell converts the fuel, in this case hydrogen, into electricity by reacting with oxygen from the air. Hydrogen is pumped into the anode, air is blown into the cathode. In the anode, a catalyst splits the hydrogen molecules into electrons and protons. The electrolyte membrane allows the protons straight through the cathode, but not the electrons, which have to go through the electric circuit to reach the cathode, which creates a current. In the cathode, the oxygen and the hydrogen protons and electrons combine to become the exhaust, which is pure H2O. Okay, that was a ton of really geeky gobbledygook. What they're getting at is, the long and short of it is, this fuel actually converts and makes its own energy on board on the machine, and what it exhausts out is H2O, water. That's literally it. That's what it gives off. No emissions, no smog, no gases, no weird stuff. Water is going to be the exhaust, is the end result, the end product of that chemical conversion that happens. So really interesting technology on your screen right now. This is actually a Suzuki that they're showing filling up with the hydrogen, in case you've never seen a hydrogen pump. That is what they look like. They lock in. And TVS, like I said, has released a patent, and they are thinking about doing business and putting this on a scooter. Josh, what do you think about all this hydrogen talk? Is this just a ton of hot air?
I was really disappointed when it wasn't going to be a motorcycle that could be powered by me on burrito night. But beyond that is, I've looked at a lot of the hydrogen power stuff, and it's one of those things where I am still very much a skeptic. I see the technology. I think it has a very, very long way to go before it's consumer friendly. If it works, I'm going to be super pumped. The thing that I don't like about it, and in so many cases, is it adds more moving parts. I mean, we're both a fan of the electric stuff, and the fact that there's minimal moving parts there is part of the reason why I'm a fan of electric. So it's more to go wrong, but if they get it right, I mean, boy, is this a pretty good thing. And your Hindenburg analogy there at the beginning, that's classic, because I owe to humanity. I mean, that's what people say when I have burrito night.
I figured that quote would ring home for you. But yeah, so whenever I've seen hydrogen or it gets mentioned in conversations, I do go and read all of the different forums and news pages and all that jazz when it has anything to do with automotive and motorcycle and power sport. Somebody always wants to bring it up. I'm like, it was 1930s. You all have got to calm down. It's come a long way here.
Changed a bit.
It is much more stable. It is much more safe. It is being used to a pretty decent degree with automotive, particularly out in California. There are hydrogen pumps. There is infrastructure for this. There is a footprint existing for this. And like I said at the very start of this story, Bosch has agreed to commit $1.3 billion into research and development, and the time frame on that is by 2025. So in 3 quick years, they're going to spend all that money coming up with a solution to this hydrogen equation. So I think that this is very interesting and has a lot of potential. Josh, what do you have going on for your second story?
Agreed. So the last one, Swobbee has joined a motorcycle consortium. What the heck is Swobbee?
Tool? Yeah, yes. Isn't that the tool you cut your hair with the vacuum?
Correct. And you can tell by the way my hair is today. So what Swobbee is they deal with batteries. And Piaggio, Honda, KTM, Yamaha, they're all in this consortium of saying, hey, we're going to work together on a swappable battery system. And Jacqui, you and I have talked a ton about how swappable batteries are where it's going to be at. Because let's take an example from the AA battery here. This works in your remote. This works in your beard trimmer. This works in thousands of appliances. And that's why we use it, is because it works everywhere. Swobbee is working on a system that will be swappable for multiple applications. And if we take a peek at the next slide here, they already have an infrastructure in place that works with a lot of other items. So this is a small delivery vehicle. I mean, it looks like it could be fun to ride, but nonetheless, we've got someone pulling a battery out to put in their delivery vehicle here. When you've got these smaller batteries like this, the applications are, I don't want to say universal, but pretty darn close, like, once again, the AA here. So now maybe your bike needs 3 batteries, maybe it needs 4. But if it's designed around a single battery system like this, suddenly it becomes very easy to put these swappable stations out there. One big hurdle that we've seen from some of the companies is are you going to have a Honda-specific swapping station and then a Yamaha-specific swapping station? That's not going to work for anyone. If you have a battery swapping station that works for motorcycles, delivery vehicles, scooters, and even some smaller cars, I think they're really onto something. So to me, seeing this is really, really cool because this goes cross-platform. Heck, you could probably run your laptop on this if you're going to have an extended time someplace. This is what brings this all together and makes this usable and makes the infrastructure possible. All right, so are you going to power your laptop with this, Jacqui? I mean, maybe the lights in the background
Actually,
there or something.
Before you pointed out, I was going to say that also. I was going to say, imagine one of these being able to be popped into and out of basically a generator type setup that you can bring in your car or in your van for the van life nerds who need to power their stuff and go off grid and go travel somewhere. This idea, this swappable battery idea, to me is absolutely clutch, pun intended. It is absolutely the linchpin of how we make bikes, future EV mobility become accessible and interesting for everybody. I was really concerned, EV, like I said, has had this real boom moment in the past handful of years in particular. For a hot second there, it looked like everybody was going to do their own individual battery technology and nobody was going to play nice together and they were going to all be proprietary, which is how we keep everything small and narrow and yucky. The thing that they needed to do was all agree and have a handshake agreement that they were all going to make the same type of batteries, and they did, which I think is excellent. I think this is such a brilliant idea. The company Gogoro over in Asia already is using this same type of platform, but they are Asian market only currently. So this is obviously meant to be a little bit more of a global, as well as Gogoro is very small and they have their own scooters and things, whereas this is going to be the top big 3 players, right? It's Honda, Yamaha, and Suzuki?
It's Honda, KTM, Yamaha, and Piaggio. So you've got Guzzi, you've got Aprilia, and to me, the easiest way to think about this is when you look at the hole in your gas tank, whether you have a Suzuki, a Yamaha, a Honda, it's the same size. The same stuff goes in there. It's just moving this concept to electrons.
Yep, I agree. I think this is really, really wonderful. I saw this press release also, so I'm glad you jumped on it and talked about it on today's program, because I do think it's really very important news and very important technology. I am here for it. I love it. Look at us go, Josh, always bringing you the newest breaking news going on out here in motorcycling and doing it with a little bit of fun, some jokes. We always have a good time here on the show. If you are a brand new watcher, welcome to the program. If you're one of our regular fans, welcome back, everybody. And as always, you can check out all of our previous videos. They live out here on the internet forever on our YouTube and our Motorcycle and Powersports News Facebook page. So make sure you go check out any of our backstories. We are here every single week. And with that, I will see you next week.